9 worlds the world tree touches. 9 worlds for the races of gods and men and monsters. The tree is named Yggdrasil, whose roots are watered by Norns. Yggdrasil, in whose roots the serpent lies. Yggdrasil, upon which all things live, lays at the center of everything. This is the story of its worlds. Thanks again to the God of War team for sponsoring this episode and making this brief overview of the Norse worlds possible. When it comes to arranging the worlds of Norse myth, there are a few different lists of realms which are debated among scholars. For today's overview, we've chosen to run with the 9 that are by far the most commonly accepted. Now, without further ado, the realms of Norse myth. We must start with Asgard, the home of the Aesir, the gods themselves. Surrounded by an unfinished wall, it is here that Valhalla lies. It is in these halls that Odin rules, and the valiant dead gather for the final battle. And it is here in Asgard that Bifrost, the great rainbow bridge that connects the realm of men and the realm of gods, ends. The bridge that will crumble before the forces of Muspelheim on the last of days. It's in Asgard that Baldur the Beautiful died. It's in Asgard that Fenrir, the wolf that will slay Odin, sits bound. It is here that Freya weeps for her husband as he is away on his travels. It is here that she rides in her chariot pulled by 2 great cats. And it is here that Heimdall stands on his lonely vigil, waiting for the fire giants to charge across the Rainbow Bridge and for Ragnarok to begin. After Asgard, we have Alfheim, land of the Light Elves. It was these elves that inspired Tolkien. They are said to be fairer than the sun to gaze upon. They are often associated with the Aesir, but they are aloof and play little part in the ancient tales. Then comes Muspelheim, first of the created worlds. It is a rage of fire and heat. Lava flows across its baked plains, and from its ruddy depths come the fire giants. At the head of their host is Surtur, the bringer of flames that shall engulf the world. With his blazing sword he shall lead the fire giants across the Bifrost Bridge, and their tread shall send it tumbling into the void below. And in the final days he shall slay Freyr, and as they fight he will spark the conflagration that will burn away all things. For that is the fate of Surtur. Second of the created worlds is Nifflheim, the land of snow and mist. It is the inversion of Muspelheim, bitter cold, covered in glaciers and ice. Crossed by frozen rivers, it is here that Fergelmir springs, one of the pools that feeds the roots of the World Tree. Yet, Nifflheim may not be just one world, but 2, for some sources say that this is where Odin cast Hel, daughter of Loki, to make her abode for the damned. So the 5th world in our list is Helheim. It is a hall long and dark, hidden by valleys of the blackest night, accessible only by an old wooden bridge with a roof of gold. What is to be found in that hall and how hell functions is a mystery full of contradictions. To some, it was a place of horrors where the wicked and those who died of old age or sickness went. To others, it was a strange imitation of life, where the dead that were not swept up to Valhalla continued their existence in a way not too different from what they experienced on Earth. But there is one thing we know. There is no coming back from hell. Even when the gods tried to rescue Baldur from its depths, their efforts were all in vain. Then comes Nidavellir, the Dark Fields, the realm of dwarves and all of their works. These beings prefer the depths of the mountains and wrought wondrous marvels, like Gungnir, the spear of Odin, Gullinbursti, the glowing boar of Freyr who could run through the air and the water, and Mjolnir, perhaps the most famous hammer of all. But the dwarves of Nidavellir were not always kind smiths. They were often wicked, greedy, or violent. One particularly well-known dwarf in another form is Fafnir. He was a dwarf who killed his brothers for riches, and then transformed into a dragon to protect his gold. Next, we have Jotunheim, or Giant's Home. Broad and varied like the lands we know, Jotunheim is home to many of the giants. Located between the realm of gods and the realm of men, it is a land of adventure. Its landscape is dotted with the fortresses of giant kings, and it is a favored realm of Loki, who loved going there and finding ways to lure Thor into the clutches of some giant or other. But perhaps its most important tale belongs to Odin, because tangled in Yggdrasil's roots, just below this realm is a well that feeds the World Tree, and at that well sits one of the wisest beings, an old man named Mimir, who you may recall from the previous episode. Mimir became wise by drinking from the well, because its water contains wisdom, and it is to this well that Odin went on one of his trips, to seek a greater understanding of all things. He asked Mimir for a drink from the well, but the draught would not be free. Mimir asked that Odin pledge an eye in return for wisdom. This he did, and dropped it in the well, which is how he became known as Odin One-Eye. And of course, there's Midgard, the mortal realm, the realm we know. It is here that people fight and farm and wander. It is from here that the human heroes of the sagas spring. But it's not quite like the world as we think of it today, for around Midgard swirls a bounding ocean, and around that ocean curls the great serpent Jormungandr, encircling the world. And when Ragnarok comes, Jormungandr will rise out of the waves to poison the ocean and the sky. The serpent will end Midgard, and then make its way to fight in the final battle with the gods, where it will be the death of Thor, who will slay it but live for only 9 steps before its mighty poison fells him as well. Finally, of course, we have Vanaheim, the mysterious realm of the Vanir, the gods that came before the gods. Before the pantheon we know, there was an older host, a more primeval host, gods and goddesses of fertility and nature. Eventually, they will be joined with the host of the Aesir, and some of them will take their place in Asgard, but not before a great struggle between the two. A struggle you might remember from last time, the Aesir-Vanir War. I hope you have enjoyed this little romp through Norse mythology. We'll see you next time. Thanks again to the God of War team for sponsoring this video. If you want to learn more about God of War before it drops on April 20th, check out the link in the description where you can read the lost pages and check out trailers, gameplay, and more.